It's the 10 to 1 podcast with your host, Brad Oman, featuring Ben Conowitz and Nate Laux. And here's the podcast.
That was so low. Did you purposely try to go low?
No, I think it's just my voice right now.
Okay.
Are changes happening?
Are you finally?
I got a couple little puppies.
Are you becoming a man? It's the 10 to 1 podcast.
See, you're doing Talk Boy voice again.
We've already done that bit.
Sorry.
We got to move on.
Sorry, moving on. Go for it, Brad. Introduce the show.
Well, this is an SNL podcast. That stands for Saturday Night Live. It's the 10 to 1 podcast. So named because the weird sketch towards the end of the night happened at 10 to 1 a.m. And even though that's changed a bit.
We say happened?
Past year or two, they've been putting weird sketches all over the place on SNL. But we're back again with a new episode for a streak of 3 back-to-back episodes to end 2022. And this one was hosted by Keke Palmer, who was one of the leads in Jordan Peele's Nope this past summer. She's had a career since she was a child. She had her breakthrough performance in Akilah and the Bee, which is based on the book of the same name. She was also a Nickelodeon star back during the early mid-2000s, and she has since turned that into quite a lucrative career. And here she is, hosting Saturday Night Live. But before we get to Keke Palmer, let's kick things off the way we normally do by just digging right into the cold open.
All right. Hey, I do want to mention again.
Oh boy!
No, I got a fact for you. I got something for you, because I know all of the SNL writers are listening to the show. We're continuing to grow our listenership, these kind of things. So we had a new writer that joined the team, Asha Ward. She wrote on Instagram, Monday morning, I was clocking in at the dentist. She worked at a dentist's office as an office manager. Last night, a sketch I wrote with Ego Nwodim, Streeter Seidel, and Gary Richardson, who does not have IG, Instagram, aired on SNL. Isn't life so crazy and real sometimes? I wanted to mention that because
that is nuts, right?
We are fans of comedy. Is it not nuts to say? And obviously, she majored in comedy, I think, at Columbia. She's been working it. But to pay her bills, she was working at a dentist on Monday and got hired by some point during that week to work as a full-time writer on SNL.
Wrote a fucking sketch.
And got a sketch on the show. Kudos to you, Asha.
Great
what an
job.
amazing achievement.
Now do it every week for 4 years.
I love stories like that. I do.
It's
I love
awesome.
additions.
Good. Hey, you know what? Good for you.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that.
Hey,
there was no sadness in your voice whatsoever.
I don't know if that was like a partial, like 3/4 sadness.
Yeah, your voice.
No.
Jealous.
I'm super happy for it.
Your voice cracked 4 times. That's okay.
No, it's fine.
I'm happy for her.
All right. Let's move on to the actual show. Herschel Walker cold open. Republican Senators Mitch McConnell, played by James Austin Johnson. John Cornyn, played by Mikey Day, and Marsha Blackburn, played by Cecily Strong, helped prepare Herschel Walker, played by Kenan Thompson, for the Georgia Senate runoff, which happens, we're recording this on Monday, happens tomorrow. We have many times before said we do typically enjoy, we don't dislike political sketches. We have not tended to enjoy many of the recent political cold openings. What did you guys think of this one?
I was pleasantly surprised that this one actually worked pretty well for me. I will say that I think that it's an easy target because Herschel Walker is such a profound idiot, and it's really easy to make fun of him and make good jokes about his stupidity and the things that he says in a totally wrong way or misunderstands.
That he is a legitimate candidate for Senate is an embarrassment to our country, correct?
Yeah, and Kenan Thompson played him perfectly, and the way that Cecily and Mikey and the rest of the gang respond to him is great. So yeah, I really like this one. I thought it was very funny.
I probably should do the research and just to see if Herschel Walker, back before he played his first down in the NFL, was this stupid. Because if this is CTE related, it's going to feel like punching down. But
I'm sure it is. But at the same time,
but if it's not, if he was always a moron and making women get abortions, then fuck that guy. So
but if you listen to the things he is saying, even if it is like CTE related, like CTE doesn't make you an asshole.
Yeah, it's like when people say, "Well, this person that did this crime had depression." Well, depression doesn't make you a criminal.
No, I know,
Right?
I guess maybe I should clarify. I don't mean like the narrative.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know. Yeah,
if he's got some form of dyslexia and he's fucking up his word, like it's hard sometimes to have that balance of like I want to make fun of this guy so bad, but because he's saying things that I disagree with and he's harming America with those thoughts, can you then use sort of a disability against him in that way? And if it is a disability, I'd feel really bad.
But also all the more reason for him not to be a candidate for office.
Well, I mean, people with disabilities should be able to run. But again, I agree. I don't think that's the
wow, Brad. Wow.
Okay,
wow.
hold on. Let's say it. Let's clarify here.
Moving on.
And what was the second step?
Let's be clear. People with disabilities, yes, but if you have something like CTE and like you can't like carry out common comprehension and tasks, that's the problem.
You have so you just have a problem.
Very rare.
You have a problem with people with disabilities.
It's very rare that Brad puts his foot in his mouth like that. It's usually Ben and I that we have to edit out because Ben and I just said something.
Because the problem is the way you framed it after I said it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Brad, how'd you feel about the monologue?
No, let me comment.
I will sabotage this podcast.
You already have.
There was a comment about this cold opening on Twitter that I thought was kind of funny in that the way that Kenan plays Herschel Walker almost isn't absurd enough.
Right.
Because, again, Herschel Walker's been so absurd in the things that he has said and clearly doesn't understand when he's talking about. And Kenan Thompson almost is using the exact words from real life. Yeah,
it's similar to what they did with Sarah Palin. And 30 Rock even had a thing about this where they made Tracy Morgan into like what was a fictional politician at the time, and they made a ruse so that they weren't doing sketches about the character to avoid upsetting Jack Donaghy, Alec Baldwin's character. They just had him say the things that he really said out on the campaign, and they were just stupid enough to be funny.
Right. As a political wonk, I want to also give a shout out to James Austin Johnson. His Mitch McConnell is fantastic.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's so good.
Beck Bennett didn't do a bad one. No, by the way, it wasn't bad, but this is next level.
Yeah, it is very subtle and very good.
He's got that damn gullet. What is it? Is that what it is? It's like a gullet.
It's a
jowly, whatever. He's so good at it.
There's a draw. There's there. There's a Kentucky draw. But I agree. Going back to whether or not we like this sketch, I agree with Brad and you. I think it was a good opening.
It's a waddle. It's a waddle.
Yeah, a waddle. Yeah. Mitch McConnell simultaneously looks like a turtle and looks like he just swallowed a turtle.
Moving on, Keke Palmer's monologue, written by Mike DeCenzo, Jake Norwin, Keke Palmer, and August White. First-time host, Keke Palmer talks about the lessons she's learned from being an actor for 20 years and addresses pregnancy rumors. I didn't know there were rumors that she was pregnant, so clearly I am not involved in the TMZ scene.
What?
Same here. I had no idea.
But what did you guys think of the monologue?
Well, as somebody who knew she was pregnant, no. This monologue was awesome. She's... so I'm the one that always comes out and says, this is my litmus test, litmus test for how the episode's going to go. If the it doesn't need to be perfect, but the comfortability of the person giving the monologue will tell me everything I need to know as far as, will they be game to jump into things? Are they comfortable or nervous in front of the camera? She crushed it from the get.
The only thing I didn't like about this monologue, and I did like it, she walked out confident, and she was confident the whole episode, and we could talk a little bit more about that. And she was charismatic. The pregnancy thing was fun. I didn't like the Lawrence Fishburne story because I didn't find the humor in it as much.
That's a little bit... it is telling tales out of school a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like...
But it feels like it's something that happened to her at the same time.
I didn't find the comedy in it as much. Oh, and my mom stood up and said this. Okay, like I get that, but like, I don't know. I didn't find that a funny anecdote like as much.
And I will agree. Like it didn't play for laughs like maybe they were thinking it was going to. And maybe it's because Lawrence Fishburne is a really well-respected actor, and it's really hard to like paint him in a negative light. And that's what.
And his thing was like, we need to be serious,
right?
I mean, like,
and she was.
But that's the thing, though. I don't necessarily think it paints him in like an overly negative light, which is probably why they chose to tell the story. Is like it's almost like he was being, a parent in that way, but he's being a parent to somebody who's not his kid, and so of course his mom's gonna step and be like, And so like her Lawrence Fishburne impression was like it was funny. and the way she told it like brought playful energy to it.
No,
If you told that story any other way, it might have been awkward.
I guess
feel like
it didn't hit me. That story didn't. I thought her Aziz impression was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, that was funny too.
So yeah, the Fishburne stuff was just like I don't know that it was for the length of the story, the payoff wasn't as funny. Right?
I think that's what it was. Is I didn't get the payoff.
It wasn't just a quick aside that was clever and funny. It was
disagree.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2-1.
2-1. We win.
All right, moving on. Forsington's Ridge, a dramatic 1984 episode of Forsington's Ridge takes an unexpected turn. Let me tell you this: when I was little, back when I'm so old that we had half day kindergarten. And so I'd go to half day kindergarten and my mom would pick me up and take me home. And I used to watch Days of Our Lives with my mom. I used to watch all the soap operas.
Because, I watched them too.
And so 80s soap operas, like I know probably a little too much about because I've seen a lot.
Big Susan Lucci fan for real? When she got that daytime Emmy, thank you. Okay.
Did I have tears?
Yeah.
You bet I did.
You bet I did. I was crying with my mom holding her hand. 20 fucking years. That woman deserved it.
So what did you guys think of Forsington's Ridge sketch? Silly, kind of absurd.
So first things first, Forsington's Ridge is such a great name. I loved that right off the bat. Brad, what did you think?
No, I loved it. This is a great use of slapstick comedy, and thankfully, I feel like the people who were in the control room did a great job of cutting to the right things where they needed to, because that could have really thrown things completely off the rails. But like the timing of it, everything was just done so well, and I wasn't expecting this sketch to go that way.
And the timing needed to be subtle too, Brad. That's a good point. I never thought about the direction of that. It needed to be very specific and because you almost have to see that this is like, stunt actors coming in.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
So,
and the timing and going back to like when you're supposed to see that it's Cecily Strong and Keke Palmer.
And also the nuance, and this is one of those rare moments where I can't tell if this is scripted or this is, they know it can't be scripted perfectly, so they're going to lean into it.
Yep.
When it cuts back to the actors instead of the stunt people, they're kind of looking at the camera a little bit like, is it time to go? And I feel like a few times it was so funny because they have to make it so that it's kind of tongue in cheek, but like sometimes it was like I think they're waiting honestly for their cue, and I just couldn't figure that out, and it was so funny because of that.
There are a few things I don't like in. We've talked about this before. I never liked when Jimmy Fallon broke because he broke every sketch.
Right.
It became his thing, right?
Right.
I like when actors don't typically break when they do break because that is a very funny moment.
Organic.
I also like when actors on SNL are having fun. This was a fun sketch for Cecily Strong. You could tell they were having fun with it. It was silly. I mean, honestly, the comedy wasn't all that great. The physical stuff.
Oh, it was a physical sketch through.
Well, that is the comedy.
Yeah, I guess But I'm just saying it was the looks in between.
It's a simple premise and the execution heightened it for sure.
Yeah, waiting for.
When's the Brad or Nate? When's the last time that you remember seeing something like this with cutaways to some people that are not regulars on SNL, like stunt performers or something like that? I just can't remember the last time I remember that. Like this was so new, and I love that.
Yeah.
I think coincidentally enough, actually, it also happened. I mean, later in this episode with the music video sketch.
Oh, sure, but I'm talking about previous episodes. I hadn't seen that, and that this is maybe a cool, fun new thing. That remember when they did the remember? Like, wow, what am I? Hey, remember when?
Remember?
Do you remember?
Do you remember when you played in the band with Ringo? That was awesome.
I'm real life fucking Chris Farley. Remember when you were in the band Wings? So do you remember when? God, I lost my train of thought. God damn it!
Because you can't say that now without sounding just like Chris Farley. Hey, I couldn't find the writers of the sketch, so if you are one of the writers of this sketch, comment in our comments.
No, what I was gonna say is, do you remember when they did the? I actually think it might have been one of the Dave Chappelle episodes where they did the breakdown of the sketch and how it was going.
Yeah. And that was hilarious.
So that's a break from whatever they normally do, and this felt like that, right? Where holy shit, I didn't see the direction of this coming, and I'm so glad they did it.
Yep. Agreed. And it was a silly sketch to put right away. Honestly,
yeah.
So this early in the episode, as Brad said at the beginning, the 10-1 used to be a thing.
Seriously, We got to rename the podcast.
All right.
I'm not sure that this one qualifies as weird though.
It was silly though.
It's off the wall and different.
Exactly. It was different. It didn't fit the typical formula of the sketches they've been doing.
Come on, Brad.
All right, moving on. The anthem of this podcast now, Big Boys, written by Vanessa Jackson, Punky Johnson, and Streeter Seidel, a group of single women, played by Keke Palmer, SZA, Cecily Strong, Ego Nwodum, and Punky Johnson, sing a song about cuffing season. One of my favorite lines in this sketch was the Ego Nwodum, did this man just die?
Oh my God.
I haven't laughed so hard. It was just the funniest thing. It was
the way they stopped the music and, and then he stops breathing. And
so you CrossFitters will not understand how funny this is. If you are
I
in
know
shape,
so many people that
Mike Flores, friend of the podcast, this is not for you. Okay, this is for us. Okay, 3 big boys and I'm
borderline sleep apnea.
Oh, borderline. So I was on the couch with my girlfriend watching this, and I'm not joking. I see her just doing the Stewie Griffin slow roll turn towards me the whole time.
There was a line there too where it's like shoveling snow in your shorts. That reminded me of you, Ben. Ben wears shorts year round.
I'm wearing them right now. The guys at work make fun of me all the time. It's 20 degrees.
And you're still sweating, aren't you?
Yeah. And I'm like, not only am I comfortable, I'm too hot. Oh, this was and I know, guys. I know with you guys listening, this is because it was made for, this is our wheelhouse, but it was so funny.
Yeah,
so
well,
funny.
not only,
and the songs are always bangers. The songs are bangers.
They
yeah,
are.
that's the thing is that, this song was so well written. Like the beat behind it is fantastic. It was just a really well composed music video and sketch all around.
I can't remember the last time that I laughed harder at an SNL sketch. It was so funny.
Hearing Cecily Strong put on that rap voice too, I was like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah. It's good to have her back, by the way. But also, she's just so stinking talented. Yeah. I loved this sketch so much. It's going to be one that I think I'll remember all season long because
this should be. I mean, for us anyway, probably if we're going to do an end of season recap of our top 10 sketches, this is probably in there. For me.
I really enjoyed it. So, all right, moving on. Drake PSA, written by Alex English, Gary Richardson, and Will Steven. A public service announcement presents an organization for Drake's exes. I'm going to say this. I'm not a huge Drake fan. I've got nothing against Drake. I'm just not a huge fan. Everything I know about Drake, I've learned from celebrity gossip. And I could say I don't even follow celebrity gossip that like.
Yeah. By the way, because I just heard you didn't even know Keke Palmer was pregnant.
Didn't know that. So I'm not even that close to it, but I know that Drake talks about his exes a lot. Sure. He's like the rap / R&B version of Taylor Swift.
I had heard that, and again, this is all probably TMC bullshit or whatever, but I'd heard that he was like kind of trying to groom Millie Bobby Brown.
I think there's some complicated things about so some people have suggested he dates some pretty young people.
So does Kenan Thompson, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so Brad, what did you think of this one?
So I wasn't necessarily into it at first, but then I feel like it kind of caught its flow, and I appreciated what it was doing, and everybody in it is so good, and the things they were saying about Drake and like how you meet him and like the things that are being said about them and how it got funnier and funnier, and so I ended up really liking.
No, you're spot on with this. Like I didn't know where it was going, and then once it started getting that momentum, once the train left the station, I was on board. It was really good.
There are certain sketches where if you're a part of the in group, it is probably a funnier sketch.
Just like Big Boys.
Yes. If you're morbidly obese like I am, so you get
Big
that one.
Boys is the best sketch ever.
But
Nate, here's the thing: you're tall.
No, so he's a big boy.
I'm a big boy.
I feel like you're like an almost big boy.
So
the junior varsity.
Here's what happens to people like Nate and me that are slightly taller. Like Nate, you're 6'3".
6'5", buddy.
6'5", 6'7". So you're 6'5", I'm 6'2". People say the following left-handed or backhanded compliment: you carry it so well.
Or you're big boned.
You're big boned, broad shouldered. You carry it well. You're a fat fuck, but you carry it well. Like that. What does that even mean?
Hey, I go pee in the morning, as you know, and I look at myself in the mirror. I'm carrying some extra pounds, guys.
Listen, Brad, I've hugged Nate. I've hugged him. There's some jelly in the middle.
There's a lot of jelly.
I get the same kind of compliments too. Like when I go to the store and they're like, "Sorry, this doesn't fit you."
That's bad, buddy. That's so. Moving on.
No, they're telling me there's clothes that are better for me, right? Because I'm better, I'm cooler.
Yep.
So let me finish my thought about the Drake thing.
Back to Drake for some reason.
I thought this was a very funny sketch. I do think it'd been funnier if I'd known some of the references, which I didn't. But again, well executed, well written.
Also
very
the
funny.
the group, the general group of all
the
of the women, that
performances
was
were
great.
good. Again, love it. Hello Kitty sketch written by Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, Ben Marshall, Bowen Yang, and Celeste Yim. 2 hosts played by Molly Carney and Cecily Strong. Show 4 people played by Marcelo Hernandez, Sarah Sherman, Keke Palmer, and Bowen Yang. Facts about Hello Kitty. Hernandez and Sherman's characters go along with it, while Palmer and Yang's characters question it. Natasha Lyonne makes a cameo at the end. Again, a former host not too long ago who we loved on SNL, did a great job.
Some would say it was a cameo.
Yeah. What did you guys think? I
Shut up, Ben.
Again,
Shut up,
What?
Ben.
No, hey, it's a Hello Kitty sketch, and it's
you
a
stop
cameo.
it. You stop it. You stop it.
Okay,
as
fine.
a fan of Hello Kitty, what did you think? As a part of the in group, Brad, what did you think?
Ben.
So I go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
This sketch was so funny, and I did have to go look up whether or not it was true that Hello Kitty is supposed to be a human.
Is it true?
I did
It is true. It is true.
That's
back in
so
2014,
weird.
Back in 2014, that's what the news they announced said.
You're telling me this is a human child? That was so good.
This was the way Keke Palmer and Bowen Yang reacted to this, and and also the fact that Bowen Yang looks the way he does with that mustache and those glasses.
Oh, it's so stupid. It's
oh
so
my
great.
God. This was just so funny, the way that they were
Keke Palmer-
incredulously reacting to everything.
Let me say this about Keke Palmer, because one of the things I wrote in my notes is I don't remember a host that was so comfortable not looking at cue cards.
Yes.
It was so good. Like all episode, she came in and she fired, man.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just an expert.
She really was.
It was astounding, honestly.
I'm not joking.
Typically, even great hosts stumble, or you catch them looking at the cue cards a couple times. She did not, and had a lot of dialogue.
Yeah,
kudos to her, man.
Honestly.
I mean, she's just such a great host.
So Molly Carney. I was so sad that they stumbled over a few of their lines, because it's not like it ruined it or anything, but they had the opportunity there to kind of really shine as a new cast member, and you hope that for all of them, right? Every single person that's a new cast member, you want them to do so well every time they're, well, at least I do. Anytime a new one's on, I'm like, here's your shot.
Yeah.
Here's your shot. And
there's something about their delivery, though, that when they do stumble over their lines, they make it sound like it's part of the character. It's because of their voice.
Yeah,
I think
honestly, for them, it is more of a, like, they get away with a little bit of Farleyisms. So even when you do fuck it up a little bit, it's like, well, that's kind of just, I'm kind of this person, right? I'm just trying my best. And that does come across. And so for them to flub up a line instead of maybe Hernandez, right? They get away with it a little bit better.
Let me say this about Molly. We've talked a lot about them on this podcast, and I think we're all big fans of Molly. We are.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Molly has earned yet the Chris Farley thing where they can be very silly like that to pull off the flubs.
Sure.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think that they still have this inherent speech pattern that makes their stammering a little more acceptable.
Agreed. It still was a problem here, and I hope they get it figured out, whatever, or just less nerves or whatever.
Becomes less enduring and more of a try hard right now, whereas Chris Farley was all endearing. And I think Molly can get there. They haven't earned it quite yet, but they will.
Yeah. No, honestly, other than that very slight thing, this was tremendous. I mean, from some writer came in and said, hey, by the way, did you know that Hello Kitty is a human child? And everybody went, what the fuck? Let's write a sketch. I mean, one of those
it was
great
Please
premises.
Don't Destroy guys.
Yeah.
Not
I
shockingly,
love that
right?
so much.
That
Great,
caught on to this little bit of history that none of us knew. And they thought people should know this because it is ridiculously funny.
And again, the star of the show here, Keke Palmer, just crushing it. Bowen Yang with the stupid mustache, crushing it. Yeah, just great all the way around.
All right, moving on. The sketch that people have been waiting for 19 years, Kenan and Kel, written by Mikey Day, Keke Palmer. honestly, I'm going to say this. Keke Palmer is a writer of the sketch. It's not often, as we've talked about, because we try to honor the writers of the sketches, because the writers are just as much a part, if not more, a part of SNL as the cast members. And so if a sketch isn't written well, there's nothing that the actors can do to save it. I try to honor the writers as well by reading their names. But it's not common that the host is actually a writer, other than in a monologue or something like this. And Keke Palmer actually helped write this sketch. So to say that she had a great episode is more than just saying she acted her ass off. She was
clearly
fantastic.
Involved in the whole process.
Yep. So written by Mikey Day, Keke Palmer, Kenan Thompson, Brian Tucker. Kenan Thompson and Keke Palmer star in a remake/reboot of Nickelodeon's classic show Kenan and Kel, called Kenan and Kelly. Thompson's All That co-star Kel Mitchell cameos in this. Brad, Ben and I are maybe a year or two too old to watch Kenan and Kel. Did you watch this growing up?
100%.
Okay, yeah, I
didn't see it once.
Yeah,
all that was the kid version of Saturday Night Live for me, which is where Kenan got his start.
A bunch of people did, honestly, right? A bunch of very famous people did.
I mean, not like a bunch, but like
Tom Sizemore,
Amanda Bynes went on to become very famous, and a couple others like went on to be steady actors. But yeah, Kenan is definitely the biggest and most successful. Like, it was very cool for children of the 90s to see him suddenly be on SNL and stay there. And then because I liked Kenan, I also liked and Kel was also a big part of all that as well, because he originated the Good Burger character Ed there, and plenty of other memorable characters for 90s kids. But Kenan and Kel was when they really took off, because they had their own show, and it was a really big step forward to have two young black kids like this leading their own show and have their names be the title of the show. That was huge. And so yeah, I have fond memories of watching Kenan and Kel as part of Nickelodeon's Saturday Night lineup, SNCC. And it was so fun to see them do this, because they did a phenomenal job, first of all, of recreating the grocery store set from the show and bringing back the style of that series, because it's Nickelodeon. It's very much a silly, heightened kind of sitcom comedy that's intended for kids. Seeing Kenan with his short dreads that he had back in the day was great. And of course, Kel Mitchell coming back. And I wish that they would find something for Kel Mitchell to do, because he really still has great comedic timing and
persona
comedy presence. He really easily slid right back into that persona he played as this kind of goofy, dim-witted version of himself on the show. And the layers this could have easily just been such an easy nostalgic pull that just it was hey, remember this, like Ben says.
Hey, come on.
But it they added layers to it by having Keke Palmer
remember
play Kelly. Play Kelly as a character who brings this dramatic layer to it, and that was hilarious.
Keke Palmer was so freaking funny in this sketch. Her going for the dramatic roles in a silly Nickelodeon show. I was really surprised, because I didn't watch Kenan and Kel. It aired from I think 96 to 2000. Again, we were teenagers.
I was 30.
Yeah. What I was surprised by is Kenan got hired on SNL just 3 years later. I didn't realize that it was pretty recent after.
Was it really only 3 years after Kenan?
2003. And Kel? He's been on 19 years. So it ended in 2000. Kenan and Kel. And he got hired in 2003 on
That's
SNL.
Insane! I never realized. It was so close.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw that stat. I'm like, geez, Louise, I can't imagine that.
For Nate and I, who obviously didn't see the show originally, for me, there was still clearly, I know this is in the zeitgeist, so I knew who that guy was.
I had watched Good Burger.
I watched Good Burger, and so I got the surface level references. I didn't get any of the, if there was any deep dives, I didn't really get that. Yep. But I respected it enough, and I don't want to ever say that that there was anything wrong with this, because I don't know enough. I feel like this is such sacred.
Were you aware of the orange soda thing?
I wasn't.
No.
Oh man, that it's a regular thing that was on the show. Kel specifically loved orange soda, and almost every episode would be tempted by it. And there was it became like a catchphrase thing almost, where they would go through this whole thing where they'd be like, Kel, who loves orange soda? And he's like, Kel does. And it's like, is it true? And he's like, I do. Ooh. And they would go through it so many times, and so the
So
orange
weird
soda
to
thing
me.
is
Like,
like an
I-
iconic
what?
part of the show.
Yeah,
It's interesting though, because here we're talking about nostalgia for millennials.
right.
This is where we're at now. Is the millennials are getting older
Yeah,
enough.
I noted this in my review that it's weird that we've reached a point where Saturday Night Live is now doing sketches based on the shows that I watched as a kid.
And it felt like a long time ago, right? Kenan and Kel feels like a long time ago.
It does. Because it was.
It was 96 to 2000. So
25 years, right?
I love the idea of her trying to form her own line, right? What was her line again? Here comes the bus.
Yeah.
I laughed out
And
loud at that.
Kenan's commentary on it is so funny. It wasn't my sketch of the night, but it may have been if I had the experience that Brad did on it, honestly. Because it was that funny. It was that funny. It was
long time
done.
coming. SNL's been people in the SNL circles have been talking about this forever. Like, when will he come back? They got to do this.
And there have been a lot of people like Brad that have advocated for it. Why don't you get Kel on the show, right? Like somewhere, find a role for him as a writer or a cast member, because he is a funny man. And they're not that old. These people have been acting just since they were teenagers, so they're not that old.
It's crazy.
Keke Palmer, I didn't realize it was so young because I remember her from Akira
she's
and the Bee.
13.
Yeah.
No, how old is Keke Palmer?
29, did you say?
Oh my goodness, a baby. Babies having babies.
All right. Arby's was the next sketch. Arby's customers, played by Cecily Strong, Bowen Yang, Keke Palmer, and Mikey Day, talk about the weird pricing of various Arby's sandwiches and start comparing themselves to other restaurants. Ving Rhames, played by Kenan Thompson, appears as Rhames does the voice of the commercials in real life. I didn't know that was Ving Rhames' voice, by the way.
Really?
We
have the meats.
Here's the thing: is I always thought it sounded like him, but I was like, "There's no way it's actually Ving Rhames." I just assumed. I never looked it up.
Let me say this: I actually love this sketch.
Okay, so I didn't.
Oh, I love this sketch.
Come on.
It competed for my favorite, honestly.
Really?
I loved it.
Okay, well, okay. Hold on, real quick.
Didn't compete for my favorite, but I thought it was very, very funny.
Based on those two reactions, I will watch it again, because honestly, when I watched it, when Ving Rhames the character steps out,
I actually didn't love that part. That was the least.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, that's when I felt like it fell down a little bit.
It didn't
and that's
need
why,
it, honestly.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of great commentary, honestly, about this. We have the meats. All right, but where are your meats from?
I just love the constant questioning, because
they're doing the math and all.
Yeah, they really just take it. But wait a minute, like I can make this sandwich. It's going to cost way more than $10 at home.
I didn't hate it, by the way. I don't think I just didn't love it.
And I just love the performances of. I mean, the main actors in there did a great job. Keke Palmer did a great job of like, hold on. So if I go to the store, I'm looking on my phone right now. It costs this. Make it make sense, right?
I'll watch. You know what? I'm gonna watch this one.
And
again.
the whole idea of going to Taco Bell. Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question about Arby's.
Where does this come from?
I just love the setup.
Okay, so
funny.
I was probably pretty hung up on when they introduced Kenan as Ving Rhames, and it kind of like lost its luster.
In your mind, end the sketch there.
Yeah,
and I think it'll be a better sketch.
Yes.
Because I really enjoyed up until that point.
Fair enough.
Ving Rhames, honestly, they could have ended. I don't know about you, Brad, but I think they could have ended the sketch right there and it'd been fine. It'd probably only been 2.5 to 3 minutes, but it didn't need Ving Rhames coming out.
Because I did still enjoy the Taco Bell and the Wendy's interludes. But if you lose the Ving Rhames stuff, I think the sketch overall is stronger.
We've talked about it before on this podcast. Sometimes SNL writers have a hard time knowing when to end a sketch.
Oh, that's like a classic, right? Like, when do you end it? I don't know. How? Yeah, sorry. How?
All right. Weekend update. Weekend update anchors Colin Jost and Michael Che tackle the week's biggest news, like giving birth to a baby and a McDonald's and the Senate passing the Respect for Marriage Act. Longtime listeners of this podcast will know that
we don't even need to ask the question.
There is an equation that Brad looks for when he watches the Weekend Update about whether or not the hosts of Weekend Update, Colin Jost and Michael Che, actually love each other or not.
This is the strongest case all season.
That's what you say.
No. If Brad, for some reason, I'm going to act like he's not even listening. If Brad, for some reason, he's probably not, disagrees that they had the closest interaction they've ever had, I will scream.
All right. That is your opinion on this. Let me check in.
It's fact.
Let me check in with our dear friend Brad, who is in Utah right now recording this. Brad, first, do they have Saturday Night Live in Utah? And secondly,
have you seen the show this week?
What did you think? What did you think of this weekend update?
Yeah, I had to use a tiny satellite dish and an antenna on this tube TV out here. So I thought it could have been better as far as the action is concerned. It just didn't feel like. No, I'm totally kidding.
I was about to scream.
You're not in the studio right now with us, but Ben was ready to throw.
There was a tear running down my cheek, and not from sadness, but from anger.
No, Ben is right. This is definitely the best example of what I like to see from Michael Che and Colin Jost. Their interaction with each other, laughing at each other, and just great interaction. And on top of that, honestly, I think this is. I said this once before. I think a few episodes ago, they had a really good weekend update run. That not just for the guests at the weekend update desk, but also the one-liners. This, I think, now is the new best weekend update of the entire season. Absolutely,
this is incredible.
Yeah, it added to a great episode already. There was some really great one-liners as they do. I love there was a one-liner there about. The state of Florida. I love anytime. I'm sorry if we have listeners from the state of Florida, but anytime Weekend Update makes fun of Florida, I love it. Florida's key demographic: grandma's under 30, which just made me laugh for some reason. The stupid one-liners like that that somebody wrote. Again, I don't think Michael Che is the character he plays.
Of course not.
He's not. He's playing it for laughs. But anytime he does that ridiculous sexist lines or anything like that, it's just so funny because he's an absurdist guy.
At this point,
he likes getting the groans.
At this point, he is more like Norm Macdonald than anybody else that's ever done Weekend Update.
This year has really grown into it. Yeah,
he's literally being kind of like this avant-garde comedian a bit, where he's just. I would love it if you groaned at this joke, because it means that you don't get what I'm doing.
And I'm gonna tell you a joke, and you're gonna groan at it. Right?
He's really peaking right now. Honestly, I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I can't remember the specific ones off the top of my head without going back and watching again, but there were a couple of jokes where I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
and they were so good.
Oh man!
And we've talked about this before on the podcast that we critiqued Dave Chappelle on some things. There's comedy to punch down, but that doesn't mean we don't like offensive comedy at times, right? Of course not. Because again,
and if you want an example of a joke that makes a joke about Jewish people but isn't anti-Semitic, it's the one that Colin Jost makes about Kanye West having a difficult time finding a lawyer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, again, that's a good point, Brad. There is a difference there, and we've tried to explain kind of where we land on some of that stuff. Is we're not, quote unquote, the woke mafia here, right? We actually do like comedy, even that offends us, right? Mm-hmm. As long as it's comedy.
I did wonder after Kanye came out pro Hitler, if Chappelle was maybe reconsidering his monologue a little bit.
Probably
not at all.
Probably not. All right, moving on to the weekend update bits from this episode. Our friend Michael Longfellow, as I called him in the beginning, Michael Longbottom, being a child of divorce during the holidays, written by Michael Longfellow with assists from Mike DeCenzo and Jake Nordwin. Michael Longfellow stops by Weekend Update to discuss celebrating the holidays as a child of divorced parents. Now, you two should not have any opinions on this, as you can't really understand this comedy, as you both had parents that were happily married and loved each other. I, on the other hand, with Michael Longfellow, grew up in divorced households with parents that didn't like each other.
Lucky.
Surely.
2 Christmases.
Surely.
True. 2 birthdays. Come on.
I'm going to say
2 parents trying to outdo each other for your love.
I don't know. Again, I don't know who the major talent scout is of SNL, doing most of the talent scouting right now. You hit it out of the park this season, because all of these additions are just fantastic.
Just great.
Obviously, this is a pretty
not just these 4 either, but honestly, the most recent round of featured players for the past couple of years, because Sarah Sherman, James Austin Johnson, they've been around for a couple of years now.
I think just 2, honestly.
Yeah, 2
a
years.
Couple I know is 2, but you realize, like you said, Brad, it's not been that long, and they already feel ingrained into the show, right?
Yeah,
and so when people say that SNL is kind of past, or there's that. No, there's some incredible talent on this, and Michael Longfellow is included in there. And these are sketches on Weekend Update, or bits on Weekend Update, where they're pretty much just telling. They're just pretty much doing stand up.
So
and Colin Jost is serving as a ping pong there. But I loved this.
So bit. This is so when like who's the guy that did the Brad that did the dance as a on Weekend Update as an update character.
Like how long ago?
It was a couple years back, but he's a feature player. He only lasted like a season, but he had one big Weekend Update character that he did. He got in front of the desk and he did honestly like a dance, and it was hilarious. And it was a one-off, honestly. I'll have to look it up. But the guy, he tells a story, and then he ends up like being in like a onesie leotard type thing, and he does like a dance in the front of the.
Hey, if you know who Ben's talking about, put it in the comments,
anyway,
please.
There are these one-off Weekend Update performances that like they shoot their shot, right? Brooks Wheelan did the butter story. This guy does the dance. Luke Null, I'm sure, had something, but nothing was sustainable. Michael Longfellow already has had just back to back, like just solid Pete Davidson-esque.
Yep.
Bring him back. I want to see more. And all four of them have had their time in the limelight here and have done really well.
And where you start seeing the little subtleties that shine is the back and forth with him and Colin, right?
Yes.
Yes. That is subtle kind of humor that not everyone can do. I loved this bit. What did you think about it, Brad?
We talked before about how Michael Longfellow kind of has this vibe that feels like a young Norm Macdonald, and this only leaned into that even more so for me. Just his dry, deadpan delivery. I lost it when Colin Jost says, "Well, hopefully, he at least had a good-looking body," and he just goes, "Why?"
Yeah.
So
and what I love about it is he just lets it rest there, which is again a skill of a good comedian. You say the why and you let that burn for a second, and it was just so good. And the physical part of the look, just so talented. I'm so excited about where this cast is going, because they've got such tremendous talent there. Michael Longfellow has done a couple different sketches. He hasn't, I don't think, been the featured part of any sketch yet that I can remember, but I hope he does, because again, I think he's going to be a fantastic addition for years to come.
Was it a Dirty Dancing bit?
Yes.
It's John Rudnitsky.
Yes, thank you, John Rudnitsky. It's like Rudnitsky.
Rudnitsky.
Rudnitsky. Yeah, John Rudnitsky had one good bit, and it was a Dirty Dancing bit on Weekend Update. It was very funny, but like that was his like, here I am. This is what I have, and then nothing else.
All right, moving on. Peppa Pig fan club president on the show's gay characters. The president of the Peppa Pig fan club, Sarah Sherman, stops by Weekend Update to discuss gay characters joining the cast of Peppa Pig. I am now more convinced than ever that Sarah Sherman is a Muppet. She is so funny.
Yeah.
Her physical, like the whole like moving her hands on the Weekend Update desk, her facial expressions.
Yeah, the constant shaking and like the way
she is a Muppet.
She would turn with her whole body too.
It is just it is possessed. It is so
there's a comedian that is truly in control of their entire body as a comedic device and understands every nuance of how to use that for laughs in the best way possible. It's a generational talent. Honestly, you just don't see this come along every day. Yeah, I am so happy that she is on SNL.
This was hilarious. I loved it so much, and like she's more and more becoming one of my favorite new cast members.
Which again, unlike Brad, I am not down with a lot of the gossip. I didn't know about the Peppa Pig controversy like Brad did.
Brad knew it all about it. He texted us.
He's been talking about it, tweeting about it for years.
Guys, did you hear about the Peppa Pig thing?
And that was at 2:00 last night. Like there was a new development. He texted us. I woke up to that text.
Peppa Pig gate.
Peppa Pig gate.
But I didn't know that there was a debate there. Again, this is what SNL does well, is it actually introduces you to
it's a real thing,
a thing that people
and then Nate always texts me, by the way, that was a real thing. Like I never think it's a real thing. It's always a real thing.
It was a real thing.
Yeah. Lately, it's anything that I feel like I'm like, is that a real thing? I have to look it up.
Yep, I'm the same way. I'm like, is this like something playing off of something?
Well, I went to BigDumbHats.com after the Amy Schumer just to see if that was a thing.
And how many times now, again, have you thought as soon as you see those hats?
Oh,
out in
absolutely.
public, like,
I've leaned into Bailey like 9 times, like, hey, big dumb hat.
All right, moving on. Ultrasound, written by Dan Bulla, Sarah Sherman, and Bowen Yang. Two babies, played by Bowen Yang and Sarah Sherman, mess around, and a pregnant woman, played by Keke Palmer Stomach. Cecily Strong appears as a doctor. This is the second time they've done this. There was a baby monitor sketch from May 14th, 2022 with Post Malone. Let me say this. I didn't love this sketch. However,
this is diminishing returns.
This is the thing I did love about this sketch. And Brad, I think you'll get this. I loved at the end when the sketch was over, they showed how they were making the sketch.
Of course.
Yes,
I love that part. That was honestly the thing about the sketch I love the most. So,
here, one thing I will say about the sketch is because I think part of it was kind of a timing thing in a way, because I did like this sketch and I liked how super weird it got.
Weird.
Just the imagery of the babies inside the womb.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate the cleverness behind structuring this sketch like this and using blue screen in this way and creating a graphic and like making it a thing that you cut to in this way. Like it really adds a layer of like creativity that you couldn't easily do, so many years ago.
Was it because they were late on the smoke out of the vagina?
that was one that felt a little bit of like a misstep to me. But yeah, it was. I think it was funny still. Like it wasn't a bad sketch, but it just felt a little bit off.
Yeah, and it was things like that where they were kind of like waiting for the cues, and then again, it's almost like that very first sketch where they're kind of like, okay, you're switching between two clearly independent scenes, and you have to make it work. It's hard, especially when you're doing it live.
The direction of that is hard.
It's hard.
I don't. I still like the first sketch if I loved it or not. I don't think I did. It's a funny premise. It's fine. It's just on an episode where there was so much good stuff. Sure. Maybe it would have been better received on a bad episode, on a less good episode.
But this is, like I said earlier, diminishing returns. The first time they did this, it would be like in 2 months if they brought back like we're gonna have stunt characters wrestle.
Yep.
It'd be kind of like that. It's still probably gonna be funny, but the first time they did it was better. Yep. That's all.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Choir Practice, written by Molly Carney, Claire O'Kane, and August White. Transfer Student, played by Keke Palmer, who is a singer as well. I didn't realize that she had such a
pipes, man,
incredible.
Yeah, seriously.
Well,
wow.
She's really single. She's actually a legitimate singer. Outsings her fellow classmates, played by Molly Carney, Cecily Strong, Ego Nwodim, and Sarah Sherman. Bowen Yang is the teacher in this sketch. What did you guys think of the sketch?
It's just good. Like she's just so. It just made me realize that Keke Palmer is literally a talent to be reckoned with. She does it all, and she's great at it all.
Plus, I think you guys are thinking this as well. Oh Holy Night is a banger. It's a great song.
Oh Holy Night is a banger. Nate Loud.
Yeah, I always crank my bass whenever Oh Holy Night comes out.
It's a banger. It's
what do you think, Brad?
No, I thought this one was pretty funny. I'm not in love with it. I do feel like it was more of like a kind of thing of like let's showcase how talented Keke Palmer is. I did think Molly Carney was very funny in this sketch. This for me was like a much better showcase of their talent of sounding like Chris Farley. Like the way that they talk, this felt like it had Farley energy to me.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, I think it was pretty good. It wasn't one of my favorites of the night, but it was enjoyable.
There are some times when people come in to host. I don't know if this happens. Obviously, we've not hosted yet. Where you predict there's a meeting there with the writers or with producers or something where they're like, hey, what is it that you can actually do, right?
Sure.
And somebody said, or Keke said, I am actually a fairly talented singer. Now, again, people that know Keke Palmer would know that.
Sure.
We didn't. And they said, okay, let's use that in a sketch. That's what this felt like for me is let's write a sketch around Keke's ability to sing. and there was some good comedy in there. I laughed a couple times, but it didn't feel like the sketch was the comedy itself. The sketch was the ability to surprise people with Keke's singing ability.
It was there's a lot of that in there because I do feel like when you're especially when the episode is getting a little long in the tooth, right? So it's getting towards the end.
Yep,
so what can we do that will still surprise the audience? What can we do that will still throw people off a little bit and still be funny? Yes, it's exactly. We don't have a lot of people that come on the show that host that can actually sing. So what can we do there too?
Yep. Hey, and you know what? This isn't entirely related, but also something that I think was pretty impressive as far as the writers and the production crew and everything like that is. They make a very prominent announcement that Keke Palmer is pregnant. And you completely forget about that in almost all of the sketches, except for the 2 sketches where she used her actual pregnant belly as part of the sketch, which I don't think has ever been done on SNL before. We'd really have to dig into past episodes, but I don't think there's ever been a pregnancy announcement with a full pregnant belly, and then that pregnancy was used as a gag in 2 sketches in the evening.
I mean, but I think more to your point and to her credit, it's when she wasn't supposed to be playing a pregnant woman, you didn't even remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so good. Yeah, man. Well, I mean,
I'm going to put Brad on assignment for next week. You have to actually watch all the past episodes.
Every pregnant, just all the episodes. That
I did try to look up, I typed in to see, pregnant host SNL, but all the stuff that came up was about Keke Palmer, so I couldn't find anything about
or porn.
For the first 300 pages of Google, that's going to be probably what it is. All right, final sketch of the night. If you have not read Brad's /film review, this was as a spoiler. This was his favorite sketch of the episode.
You son of a bitch.
Hawaii Flight, written by Ego Nwodim, Strader Seidel, Asha Ward, again, new writer, and Gary Richardson. 2 flight attendants, played by Ego Nwodim and Keke Palmer, wake their passengers, played by Heidi Gardner, Mikey Day, Chloe Feynman, and Michael Longfellow, up in the middle of the night to celebrate the fact that their plane has flown 10 million miles. I'm going to say this. I loved this episode of SNL up until this point. It was a bad sketch.
I won't go that far. I don't think this is a bad sketch. I just don't think
it was bad.
No, I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think it's nearly as good as any of the other sketches. It's easily the worst of the night. But there's something about it that was still mildly entertaining.
Tell me what it was.
So I think mostly how they talked about the age of the plane and the traits of it to show that it was old, and then the reactions from the passengers.
So I don't think. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that Ego and Keke started at 100 and they stayed at 100, and it didn't really give them anywhere to go.
Yep.
But I think that there are elements in here that were still pretty fun.
Ben, what do you say a lot about sketches? What they need to be, right? They need to accelerate, right?
You have to get to you have to take it from a 4 to a 10, right? You got to get there. You have to escalate. This didn't do that. It stayed at a 10 the whole time. That wasn't my problem with this. There was definitely something there about obviously the plane being so old and the reaction, but I don't know that you can love the Arby's sketch and then hate this sketch, because there's a lot of what you tell me this plane's super old. You tell me the roast beef is that much, and the reaction from the passengers is this. It's very similar. Oh, wait, what? There's a lot of crossover there. So why'd you love the one and not the other?
Yeah, let me defend. The Arby's sketch used something in our cultural vernacular that many of us have wondered, right? How in the world do you have a $5 box that only costs this amount of money? How in the world do you sell 5 Arby's roast beef sandwiches for $10?
I do like Roby's, actually.
Yeah. How does that doesn't make sense?
Roby's his favorite. They have the geef and better.
Don't knock it until you tried it.
They have the mozzarella mix.
Mm-hmm, and they have those nice burly fries.
Burly fries.
They're called Furly Cries.
I'll say I thought, again, in Arby's, I thought Kenan, up until he came out, was really great. I thought
Kenan until I saw him was.
Well,
awesome.
It was. I thought he did a great job doing the voiceover.
So
because voiceover is a talent.
Is the problem that you don't think of a plane in the same way?
I don't,
because they go through
the comedy wasn't there.
They go
of
through
course planes are old. Of course they've flown. Planes fly all the time. They don't stop flying. Right. It didn't seem funny to me.
Fine.
The premise wasn't funny.
Boo! Listen, for those of you like Joy. This
episode, gosh, here comes old logic brain over here.
All right, so let's again. Episode's over. I have not seen by the time we're recording this any cut for time sketches, so we're not going to get to that.
There aren't any.
We already know what Brad's sketch of the night was. Ben, what was your sketch of the night?
Oh, it's Big Boys, the pre-tape.
That was your favorite?
Absolutely.
All right, Brad's was Hawaii Flight.
My actual favorite sketch was the Kenan and Kel sketch. You were right. Like that just hit a sweet spot for me because of how much I love Kenan and Kel, and just because like it was better than a sketch like that than I would have expected it to be, and that was just a nice surprise. But Big Boys was definitely very close in second, and Hello Kitty was a super funny one for me too.
That was if I had like a most surprising sketch that I thought, like, if you were to read me the premise and then the actual, level of funny that it was, I think Hello Kitty would have done it for me. Like, the premise is so stupid and weird. Oh my God, that's such a hilarious sketch.
Was your favorite sketch name of the night Forcing Tinge?
By far. That's the best name that SNL's come up in a long time.
I agree with you, Ben. Big Boys was my favorite as well.
And it's probably because we're Big Boys, and I get it. But
the premise was funny. The song, the execution was great. It was just wonderful. All right, MVP of the night. I'm going to say mine first.
Palmer. No, Keke
Palmer. No. This is
fuck off. If you say anything else like Keke Palmer, you're wrong.
Mine is Keke Palmer. Now you guys.
yeah. It's Keke Palmer.
No, it's Keke Palmer. I do want to give a shout out to Sarah Sherman and Cecily Strong, who I think if we're gonna go with if we would name a cast member MVP, I think those are probably my top choices.
Bowen Yang deserves a mention there too because of he
honestly, he was in some great stuff.
Writers, cast members, everyone was firing on all cylinders.
If this is representative of what SNL could be, then the whole world needs to be watching.
Weekend Update was great. Michael Longfellow was great.
I used to have this thing where a couple of years back where I'd be like, SNL isn't for everybody. I get that. Like, it's hit or miss. This was almost all hits, and there would be nobody that would watch this. I wouldn't think anybody who I respect as somebody who likes comedy couldn't watch this episode and be like, well, I don't know. You're wrong. It's almost front to back. Amazing.
It was the best episode of the season.
Best of the season by far. I mean, by far, honestly. I loved it.
I specifically initially didn't want to show you guys my review because I made that the headline that this was the best episode of the season so far because I wanted to see what you guys thought. So as soon as you guys said that, I was just like, okay, it wasn't just me. I just can't, I cannot remember watching something and almost wiping away a fucking tear from my eye. That Big Boys, Bailey and I were dying. We were laughing so hard.
Like you said, we've had talented hosts, people we've genuinely loved on the show. Nobody came in as prepared, or maybe she's just naturally gifted.
She's that good.
Keke Palmer just came in, didn't look at the cue cards, was funny. Her timing was impeccable.
Showed a variety of skills too.
Oh my word, just amazing.
So we always say if you're a good host, it means you're down for anything, and also you don't fuck up your lines, right? Those two things. Not only was she down for anything, not only did she not fuck up her lines, she did better than some of the cast members at not reading the cue cards, and she showcased her singing talent, and she wrote some sketches. How can you? I mean, if she's not hosting once a year, I boycott the show. I need her every year.
Bringing back your favorite episode from last season, do you think she was better than Kim Kardashian?
Your shtick is getting really old. We can see it coming from a mile away. I thought you were going to say Elon Musk or Donald Trump or whatever.
No, I did Kim Kardashian.
Random observation that I forgot about, but since we were talking about previous hosts, Natasha Lyonne, when she came out as Hello Kitty, I was shocked because I didn't notice this when she hosted at how short she is.
Maybe they just had a bunch of Apple boxes like Tom Cruise.
I feel like everyone in Hollywood is short, other than Tim Robbins. So and Conan O'Brien.
Tim Robbins is 6'9".
Tim Robbins and George Mirasan.
Yeah.
From My Giant.
Who is Romanian, and his name in Romanian is Yorke Mirasan.
You know what? Thank you for having a Romanian wife to let us know about all.
Now, when I see George Mirasan, I'll say hello, Jorge,
and he'll hit you, and he will literally punch you down.
My wife's grandfather's name is Jorge, and she's like, "Hey, this is my grandfather, Jorge,"
and you were like, "Hi, George."
Wow, your grandfather is George Mirasan.
Hey, we're in the beginning of a 3-episode string of shows.
So okay,
what is next?
And who would have thought that Keke Palmer would set the bar so high that
my
now
God.
I'm like, okay, Steve Martin and Martin Short, you better bring it.
Dude, I am not joking. When I saw this 3 hosts, I'm like, oh, we'll get through. And I no offense to her, I just didn't know anything about her. So I'm like, no offense to her. Let's get through that one to get to the good one. Nope. Sorry, Marty and Steve. You better bring it. Oh my God. You the bar has been laid.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see. When is the last time? I mean, obviously, they've never hosted together.
That's not true. They have. Yeah, because I looked this up. They co-hosted along with Chevy Chase when Three Amigos was coming out.
Oh, didn't know that. I'll have to go back and try to watch that episode in between. So they host next week. Who hosts the week after?
Austin Butler, the star of Elvis.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that one because I want to see what kind of performer he is in a setting like this. I even if it turns out to be bad,
the interviews I've seen seem to be like he takes himself pretty seriously,
but those are the people too that I really like to see do SNL because I like to see if
Remy
they come out
Malek,
of the shell a bit. Yeah, exactly.
Remy Malek kind of came out of nowhere and was really good.
He was a great.
You know, let's be okay about that.
Hey, guess what, guys? I'm gonna watch it.
We all. But we all know what comedy legends are, and maybe this is the last time that they both get to host. I don't know.
Is there anything you guys want to see from their repertoire for next week?
Okay, so I don't want to see tropey bullshit. I don't want to see the Aykroyd come back for 2 Wild and Crazy Guys. I don't want to see that. I want to see them where they are now in their lives, and I want to see new stuff. I'm
There's
fine.
no character you want them to bring back.
I just have seen. I've seen it all. Right. I've seen everything.
I feel like
But I think
I'm not against that, but I feel like there's a big swath of people that want them just to do the greatest hits.
And also,
great, let's phone it in then.
But I think that there's an opportunity though if they do bring back those characters, there's a way to do it and like put them in the modern setting that makes those characters.
They did it with Kenan and Kel
again. Yeah, I think that there's a way you can do it if you were to do that. Like if they can come up with a new way to like bring
Ed Grimley,
Ed Grimley back and like take a contemporary approach to it, like dealing with something he never had to deal with in the 80s.
So I do suppose that what I mean by that is I just don't want them to just rely on. Well, it's an Ed Grimley sketch. Cool. I want it to be different.
Well, do you want King Tut to come back?
You know what? As long as Steve Martin comes out on stage in a white suit with an arrow through his head, I'll be fine.
It'll be interesting because we've got a lot of young, even millennial writers on the show now that weren't clearly around when Steve Martin and Marty Short were even at the top of their game, right? I mean, they're doing great stuff now still, but like they weren't around then.
Well, so I don't know that they even would understand. Well, I mean, they're comedy. Historians.
There's students, but like
I don't know that you understand how big Steve Martin was in the 70s. I don't think that you understand that he was like, back in 2014, Louis C.K. sold out Madison Square Garden. Oh, Steve Martin did that for like 7 months straight.
Yeah,
he saw like 1 billion people saw him perform. He was a god among men.
There's a reason that this is going to be his 15th time hosting the show.
A literal on the Mount Rushmore of comedy. Steve Martin needs to be out there. He's incredible. So
do you think Selena Gomez is going to make a cameo?
I hope so. I honestly do. She's amazing.
I wouldn't be shocked. No, who's the musical guest? Do you remember?
Selena Gomez. No, I would love to see Selena Gomez. Honestly, I would love to see her in the monologue. Like I would, jump up there, do the thing, and then be done, so that they can just get along with it. That's what I'd like to.
Unless they do something based on only murders in the building. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Again, there's a lot of potential when you bring back known people like this to just phone it in.
Listen, 30 Rock.
These are talented people.
30 Rock is an enormous building, so they could do only murders in the 30 Rock, like a parody type thing. There's a lot they could do there.
All right. Well, guys, it's been a great episode. Where can people find you online? Let's start with you, Braddy Bad.
Of course, I post my reviews of Saturday Night Live on Sunday morning after new episodes of SNL, so you can check those out. We'll try to post those more to our social media pages.
Where can they check it out at?
Slashfilm.com is the website. At Ethan_Anderton is the Twitter. And we will try to post those on our Facebook and Twitter pages as well, so that you can see those more prominently, since Nate previously neglected to pay attention to them.
You get us a link
media.
in your blog, and I get.
I have done it. I am single-handedly carrying the traffic of this podcast. But yeah, and so check it out there, and also check out our other podcast, Go Flix Yourself, where we talk about movies and stuff like that. So yeah, please listen to podcasts. Rate them 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And come back again next week when we have a new episode of SNL.
And I'll just use my time to say shout out to Joe Wicker, who constantly, is a big listener and gives really good opinions on social media. Joe, we appreciate your listenership. Thank you, buddy, for chiming in. I really do appreciate
Joe's
what you say.
wife Haley, who commented about the episode this week.
Yep.
Again, honestly, comment on our stuff.
It makes us feel really good.
We love it. We share
really
it in our text thread. We love when anybody comments, especially people we don't know.
Yeah.
We're gaining in listeners.
So if you're thinking about I should say something, do it. We love it.
I honestly love to hear what your favorite sketches of the week, who your MVP is.
Really makes our day.
Don't be afraid to comment. We love it. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Again, this show is a lot of fun to make, but it's even more fun when we get to interact with some of our listeners. So hey, be good to yourself. Be good to others. Keep listening to the show. Bye-bye.